Firearms friends, welcome back for day 2. We're going to do a continuation of day 1 where we walk through every single one of the cabinets, and I'm going to pick out one highlight to show you things that are coming up tomorrow at auction. We have a beautiful cabinet of Smith & Wessons, which of course are my weak spot, and so many weak spots. The condition on these are phenomenal. You got finish right down to the edge. You got these tall sights, beautiful grips everywhere, but a big fat grip Smith & Wesson is my weakness. This is a 25-2, and of course that means we're chambered in 45. Beautiful, beautiful gun. For Smith & Wesson collectors, it gets a little interesting. We have model 1955 marked here on the barrel. We got these tall target sights. You got, of course, nice wide serrated trigger, the way you would want and expect on some of these beautiful old Smith & Wessons. That's it for day 1. I could probably gush on it for a little bit, but let's move it on to cabinet number 2. We're only in cabinet 2, and I have decisions to make. One's a Colt Woodsman with the elephant ear grips that are intact. They're hard to find. You don't usually see them without them being broken off because they extend past the magazine well. Super cool design. Of course, more Colt 25s, but since we already showed you one of those, let's show you one of the NFA items in the sale. So if you want to become a stamp collector, you can get your hands on an Ithaca Auto Burglar, which is of course just a pistol-sized shotgun, hence the NFA designation. But what a neat thing. Check out the spur on this grip. It'd be an earlier one they did away with in later models. But what a neat piece. Smokeless powder steel right here on the top. So lest you wonder if it can handle the pressures of those newfangled smokeless cartridges. Ithaca Auto Burglar was ready for action. Even the double triggers, just what a cool piece. Case 3 here, we got a little Axis, a little Allies. There's some great 1911s. There's some Lugers behind me, and a nice selection of revolvers, but I'm biased again on these early long slide Colt semi-autos. I mean, the front serrations, the long slide, the barrel wedge up front, they're just beautiful. This is a great looking example of a sight safety. Early 4-digit serial number, that second year production, the niter blue on the trigger here and on the barrel wedge up front. Great looking example. Still has the sight safety, it's not converted. There's nothing really to not like about this 1900. Well, we went from Axis and Allies to mostly just Axis. A lot of European, a lot of German. We have Lugers, we have some Nagant revolvers, some Webley revolvers, so maybe not entirely all Axis. A lot of Japanese and Nambus down here, but the one I had to pick was the 1902 Luger carbine, which for some reason has the American Eagle, and this looks like a hand engraved version here on top of the chamber instead of the real US contract versions. But where do you get your chance to see a 1902 Luger with a commercial shoulder stock, we might add, but a very cool piece for a collection. Alright gang, I watched way too many Transformer cartoons as a kid to not pick a P-38 at least once. This one was giving off some strong Megatron vibes, and look at that, I mean, just with the finish on it. But you can still see all these markings are really, really clear. P-38, classic, standard issue sidearm, World War II. Beautiful, beautiful choice. Anybody would be lucky to have one of those in the collection. That's pretty darn smooth. K6, a classic pistol that has somehow avoided the NFA so far. We have an Inglis high power, slotted for stock on the back. Still have our lanyard, tangent rear sight up to 500 yards, you know, for when it is finally stocked. Wonderful, wonderful pistol. This billboard almost of markings over here. Fantastic. And to make things extra interesting, and now I am not an Inglis or high power scholar, but I'm sure someone in the comments can tell us about this Canadian maple leaf in Canada in 3 languages around the side here. It's another interesting case full of goodies. We got Colts with Kopek letters attached. We got Marston, old like 3-shot. You can select the barrel type Derringers. But the Protector was the one that caught my eye. It's a really nice with these pearl insets. Sometimes you see it as a hard rubber. Sometimes you see it as pearl. Sometimes you see it as an engraved or carved pearl design. These also are fantastic for collectors. The Protector, because you see them made by Chicago Firearms Company, like this one is. Sometimes you see them made, I believe, by the Minneapolis Company. There's all sorts of collecting variations to this on these old squeeze pistols, but this one is exceptionally attractive, and here's my selection for this case. Boy, it's all things for all collectors at a Sporting Collectors Firearms Auction. There's bronzes to my right, there's tripods for machine guns a little further, and to my left, sets of arrowheads. But on this case, the arrowheads aren't going to get my selection. It's a little bit lower. Here we have a Japanese aerial trainer. This is for machine gunners, and there would actually be film in there, and so you could train with your machine gunners and see where they're shooting, where they chose when the film was being shown, where they chose to shoot, and it would help train your machine gunner pilots. Really neat, fascinating piece of World War II history that's just tucked away down here in their Sporting Collector auction. Last case we'll show you today, some of the other items, like the non-firearms items in the sale. Check out some of these Bowie knives with these stag grips. There's a lot of fantastic blades, especially Bowies, in this sale. Look at this. Oh man, the horsehead pommel on that. Look at some of the polish on those. Whew, those big old Texas toothpicks. And of course, we sell it all here, folks, at Rock Island Auction Company. A Matador costume in lot 2270. This is incredibly ornate. It just goes to show you never know what you're going to find at one of these auctions. And therefore, I have to choose that as my favorite in this particular case. All right, firearms friends, last thing we'll show you for today. Walked by and couldn't ignore it. It's lot 2253, this beautiful Chassail. And you could tell, I mean, with that sort of telltale stock on it. Look at the inlay on this. I mean, you're talking all the way from butt nearly to the muzzle with this wire and pearl inlay. This is exceptional. Now we have a knock marked flintlock on here. It's dated 1791. All that's very cool. The inlays are cool. What I think is the coolest part is this is actually a bring back from the Global War on Terror. So this was actually legally brought back in the United States because it is an antique in 2006 from Bagram Air Force Base in Afghanistan. So you got some beauty, you got some old history, and you got some new history. Well, that's a pretty neat way to finish up day 2. Tune in tomorrow. We'll show you some things coming up in day 3 for our February 14th through 17th Sporting Collector Firearms Auction. You can still place those bids online at rockislandauction.com. So until tomorrow, everybody, keep that powder dry.